on Wednesday, February the 28th, 2018, in the boardroom at 6300 Irvington Boulevard, Houston, Texas, at 1:10 p.m. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present in this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As trustees, we're here to set goals, listen to a report from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the department are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members receive information related to items on today's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 to 551.084, inclusive of the Texas Government Code. I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us and for your interest in the Harris County Department of Education. Our invocation today will be from Cora Day, Choice Partners Cooperative. Cora?
Good afternoon. Please join us in a word of prayer. Today, Holy Father, we pray for blessing of all within this boardroom, our trustees, the HCDE family, and members of the community, and all without who are with us in spirit. Inspire and guide all who engage in today's proceedings to promote the health and well-being of the body, Harris County Department of Education, charity and goodwill towards our students, community and leadership, discipline for the achievement of the agenda for the greater good of Harris County Department of Education, and finally, edification for the growth, attainment, and success of Harris County Department of Education. This we pray in God's name. Amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag and the Pledge of Allegiance to the Texas flag will be led by Cassandra Citizen for Choice Partners Cooperative.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We have a number of people who signed up as visitors. We have Amy Hinojosa, welcome. We have Elizabeth Burkle, Jason Schultz, Danny Norris. We have Jonathan Miller and Josh Wallenstein. Thank you all for coming. I also have two people who have signed up to speak to the board. First one is going to be Jonathan Miller.
Thank you, board, for your time today. As we get closer to the primary date, we will start to get a better picture of the candidates that might be next on the board. For position 6, precinct 1, whoever won the primary will be on the board. And as a candidate for that one, I hope it's me. So it's important to make sure that we have candidates and trustees that will fight for the board. There are 3 issues I will continue to fight for regardless of how the primary turns out. The first one is pushing the board to follow its policies, including the renaming of buildings after people, which needs to be removed as it still remains tabled. I think this is very important because it speaks to the ethics of the board. Also ensure that the board keeps its transparency that the staff of HCDE has worked tirelessly to obtain and keep HCDE healthy and viable. It is concerning that some board members would vote to not pay bills and jeopardize the integrity of the department. And finally, I want to push for LGBT issues at HCDE. It is concerning that as of late that a board member has been endorsed by an anti-LGBT group, and this board member is not here today. As the only LGBT candidate, I personally feel unease that someone that is anti-LGBT is sitting on an education board. And this is not just a Democrat versus Republican viewpoint. One of my primary opponents has also been endorsed by this group. I will push to work with the adult education program to get more LGBT people into the GED program, as many LGBT people drop out of high school. We know that this board is always at risk of being shut down. It is important that we push for our kids and the health of this department. As a candidate, I promise to do the same, and I hope the board will do this as well. Thank you.
Mr. Wallenstein, I believe you're up next.
Hi, everybody. Trustees, thank you for your time. I'm Josh Wallenstein. I'm running for the at-large seat on your board in the Democratic primary. My website is www.joshwallenstein.com. Come here for two things. Thing one, I stand shaken to the core with all of you as we once again witnessed a brutal massacre of our children at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. This senseless slaughter of our nation's youth in schools where we should all feel safe and secure is an indictment on our society. God willing, we'll commit to reform this time. And in this environment, we should recognize that the Harris County Department of Education provides, among other things, intruderology training for professionals working in public schools. Thank you. Thank you all for supporting these efforts to keep our kids safe. It is crushing to me and to all of us, I'm sure, to recognize that we still have a need for these services. Okay, thing two. President Trump's director of the U.S. Office of Government Ethics recently made a public proclamation on the need to rebuild the public's trust. He notes that you, as public servants, took an oath to act solely for the public good and to eliminate conflicts of interest. And then the director continues by saying those who are doing things that undermine the public's trust, even if they don't violate a rule, need to stop. So, Trustee Wolf, I'll address your position because, like many times when I'm speaking, I don't see you. Naming a building after your mother is a conflict of interests. It violates your own policies, and it's clearly self-dealing. You may see nothing wrong with it, Trustee Wolf, but as our recent policy meeting indicates a majority of the board on which you serve now believes otherwise. You continue to receive the opprobrium of the public, most recently when the Houston Chronicle profiled your race for Justice of the Peace. Please save yourself the continued scandal associated with this act and call for a vote. Call for a vote to uphold your own conflicts of interest policy, but also to uphold your president's mandate to you as a government official to work for the public's interest and not your own.
Okay, so we have reports and presentations. Our first is going to be the superintendent monthly report. It'll be James Colbert Jr., our superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Passing out folders that have the most recent newsletters from the past month and also some other updates of upcoming events. I'd like to bring your attention to several things that have happened this past month. It's been a very busy month. We started with the Early Childhood Winter Conference, which was a really large success. I believe we had well over 900 educators from all over the state attending that conference. I had an opportunity to give opening remarks. Once again, we have a history of putting on a very well-attended and very effective event for our educators working with our little ones. Shortly after that, I believe the next day, I had to travel to Austin for the Midwinter Conference, which is the largest conference in the state of Texas for all educators. I would imagine there's probably anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 educators at this conference every single year. Very well-attended conference, very informational conference, but the biggest culminating event with that conference is having an opportunity to hear from our commissioner speak, to pretty much give us an assessment of where the state is and where the state's going in terms of public education. This past month, I also had an opportunity to attend an event with our Head Start managers. Ms. Peacock honored all of the center managers along with Mr. Parker, and I had an opportunity to speak with them and take plenty of photos with them, and we're very proud of them and the work that they do. Last week, we had another conference in Houston, one that Dr. McLeod happens to be the president of, with the Texas Association of Black School Educators. Very well attended from what she has told me. There were a number of people there. I had an opportunity to go there, I think, both Thursday and Friday. And in fact, did a presentation on Friday called Leadership Judo. Now, I told them I was only a red belt, but I'm hoping my board can help me become a brown belt. You know, so Leadership Judo, very good presentation with aspiring superintendents. And so we're really proud of that. I'd like to turn your attention, if you open up your folder, you'll see some photos of a young man on the right-hand side. Last year, Trustee Moore and Trustee Dick sponsored some students going to New York so they could celebrate and compete in this National Scholastic Tournament. In your packet, there's a story on Noah Robinson. Let me put my glasses on. A student from Kincaid who wrote about his home flooding. He's standing on the bench in the park across the street from the home. And where he is standing, the water was above his head where he's standing on that bench. That's how much water he had in his neighborhood. Artwork on display at the Galleria from February 28th through March 22nd. The display will be located on level 1 outside of the Saks Fifth Avenue. Next, the Gold Key art is currently being judged in New York City. Results are expected to be on March 13th and will be announced on the Scholastic Art and Writing website. National medalists may request tickets to go to the ceremony as they did last year at Carnegie Hall on June 7th. This year we've had over 6,000 entries judged regionally by local professional writers and artists. And so this is something that we're really proud of, and this if you get an opportunity, I've gone to this 3 times to be able to see some of the artwork. You would not think there were children doing this artwork. I mean, we have some students in Harris County with extraordinary talent. And I'm just fortunate to represent an organization that allows us to put that on display and show the world how talented some of the students are in Harris County. The final thing that I'll state is that on March 12th through the 16th, we will be recognizing spring break. I'm speaking specifically to the board so they'll know that I'm off and all of y'all are off, and so we won't have to work that day. Also in March, we will not have a board meeting because of the spring break. So we won't get together again until April. Yeah, I know you're disappointed about that. Having said that, that's all I have, Mr. President.
Pretty short. Annual update on HCDE Choice Partners Cooperative. Jeff Drury, Director.
Hi there, how you doing? Okay, just a second here. Okay. Mr. Superintendent, Board of Trustees, and guests, thank you for allowing Choice Partners to give you kind of an annual update on who we are, maybe for some of the new members, a little introduction to Choice Partners, what we do, some of our visions, and some of the things going forward. I want to take just a minute. There are about 18 people in our group. We have about 5 that showed up because most of them are at a function in Dallas called TASBO, which is for school business officials. But I just want to really quickly just say hello to, I know you just met Cassandra Citizen, Cora Day, Joanne Nichols, Kay Vorish, Yvonne somewhere, Yvonne Johnson's here, and Don Elder, one of our consultants in the next row. You know, teamwork makes the dream work. We've got a great team behind us at Choice Partners. Just go on to the next slide. This is kind of a little agenda or schedule of what we're looking to cover. A little bit about our membership, kind of historical, what we've done the last year as far as additions to Choice Partners members. Why Choice Partners? Who are we? What do we do? Just a quick blurb on why we exist. org chart, a little bit about finances, what we've done for the past couple of rolling, probably 3 years or so. A little bit about our contracts, vendors, our marketing efforts, missions and goals, and then kind of a future outlook. Regardless of what my wife says, I'll try and keep this to 5 minutes. Okay, our continued growth in membership, if you see from fiscal year 14, we had a little bit over 800 members, and the members are the local government entities or nonprofit entities. At the end of fiscal year 2017, we're at about 1296 and continue growing at a nice rapid pace. This represents about 15% or so a year in quantity growth as far as adding new members. This is just kind of a breakdown of that 1296 number. Our focus is, as you can see, well over 2 to 1 school districts, ISDs, basically a little bit kind of parallel entities to who we are. All of the ISDs served by Harris County Department of Ed have been members for decades. That is by far our focal point, is dealing with the members served by Harris County Department of Ed. And also the second one, municipalities, cities, things of that nature, not-for-profit, private schools. It's pretty self-explanatory there. And the new members, this past fiscal year, that last slide, the difference between the next to last and the last bar there, we had 141 new members. And as you can see, the profile is still pretty much following the original profile, or the profile of the general population of our member types. School districts, out of the 141, 49, or about 35%, were also were added, and then municipality being the second, and so on. So you can see it's we're kind of adding at the same proportion as we already have as far as our member base. Legal requirements. This is kind of in a nutshell. This slide says, why does Choice Partners exist? Basically, our friends in Austin, friends in Washington, D.C., legislators and other state capitals and states around the world are responsible for helping to guide public procurement with the LGEs, the local government entities. A lot of these things, our team lives and breathes all these numbers: 271, 44031, 791, 2269, all these type things we spit out with regularity every day in helping and assisting the local government entities in their ability to procure goods and services. And really, we don't manufacture, distribute, produce, deliver anything, any product. The only thing we are is basically a subject matter expert and a gateway to help these entities save time and money in procuring goods and services. One of those bullets were FEMA. I'm kind of tagging along the whole FEMA theme here, but FEMA has presented a number of kind of obstacles, and it's sad to say, but even opportunities, because we found a lot of school districts, a lot of these local government entities, FEMA has a stricter guideline as far as how to get FEMA dollars back that are above and beyond a lot of the state guidelines, and we've been extremely a very used resource with a lot of these government entities in helping them recover FEMA dollars and tell them, instructing them how to follow a lot of these federal guidelines that are above and beyond, that are stricter than a lot of the state and or local guidelines. Who we are, there'll be 2 slides here about the org chart. I'm Jeff Drury, the director. I have a number of direct reports. We have a team of about 17, and we've got the 2 assistant directors. Joanne is here. Trisha's at the TASBO meeting along with Stephen. Mary Causey's at the TASBO meeting also. Don is here, but these are some of the folks that are in the group that report directly to me. And we've got 2 assistant directors, and we've kind of got, I'll talk a little bit about it on the next slide in the contracts, but we've kind of got 2 different silos. One is the food section that Tricia runs, everything food related, and then there's everything else, right, Joanne? Everything else, whether it's contractors, whether it's goods such as, hand soap or computer supplies, all those other things fall in Joanne's realm. So we've got the 2 assistant directors kind of handling the three silos, the three product groupings that we deal with. I love this slide. This slide basically says where we've been and where we are now, and it represents. I like to sum it up in one real quick sentence. We've been very good, our whole team, of doing more with less. As you see, back in fiscal year 14, our expenses, as far as our salaries, the burden cost, the benefits, the renting of the space from HCDE, quote unquote, just it's a paper-wise, all that our burden cost is hovered right around the $1.5 million number. And from 14, we were receiving about $3 million in revenues, and we're at about 4.7 in 17, and looking to continue upward years going forward also. So this is just a nice visual saying, you know, what does Choice Partners do? Well, we've got a lot of hardworking folks back here, and we've managed to do a lot more and work a little more efficiently and kind of again do more with less over the past number of years. We talked about the contracts a minute ago and kind of the three silos. There's a little bit of bleed over every now and then. We have food contracts that involve contractors doing renovations of kitchens and things like that. But in a nutshell, they're broken down into these 5 areas. Facility services are typically the contractors going out and doing a renovation. Choice Partners cannot, will not, by law, statute, cannot do any new construction, cannot get involved whatsoever. Everything's a renovation or even remediation, as in a lot of the Harvey items. Food services, supplies and technology. Supplies and products, which are any of the operations, maintenance, janitorial, classroom supplies, staplers, pencils, things like that. And then technology, anything computer related. This is just a kind of a numerical breakdown of our contracts, what it looks like. You saw the 5 listed before. Technology probably has the fewest contracts, but each contract, as you guys are probably familiar with reading, technology contract may have many vendors and fewer in quantity as far as quantity of contracts. And it's a fairly even distribution, the lowest being the services and the food service, but those have a tendency to be extremely large contracts also with people like Borden and Labatt and just tremendously large companies. Marketing efforts, we do a lot. As we said, I think there's 6 or 7 of our team at the TASBO, either working the booth at the conference or attending classes, learning about communication or school business operations or some type of function related to school business. We offer member workshops, we do presentations, we have email reaches with press releases, e-news. We also have a couple of vendor shows that we host on our own. One, the food show. I think most of you have probably been to it at the Humble Civic Center in October, and then also we call it our vendor show, which has been in City Center the last couple of years, the old Town and Country for some of you guys that have been around a while. And also a very active website that's continually being addressed, updated, things of that nature. Mission, really, I said it again, I always like to hold up 2 fingers as far as saving time and money. Probably recognize the fellow in that picture there, but we're just there to help government and the nonprofit entities to provide quality services, legal procurement, contract solutions, help them. I use the analogy, they've got a pile of paper on this side of the desk, and if they're in purchasing and procurement, they've basically got they're a production job. They've got to shovel it to this side of the desk. We help them get a bigger shovel and move it quicker and go through that process of procurement with the slide earlier with all the regulations and government codes and things like that imposed on us by the government officials. The vision, we just continue increasing the efficiency and the effective of the government and the nonprofit entities that act as our members. The goals, significant revenue. We want to continue that curve, keep the cost as flat as we can, continue contributing as much back to HCDE as possible over time. Possibly offer incentives somewhere down the way, maybe in the county HCDE members or ISDs. The only thing we have to offer really is a subject matter expert on contracts and the ability to procure and the procurement methods allowed and used for certain products and certain entities. And you know, I'm not going to read them all, but basically we want to just continue helping our member institutions by providing them with quality vendors and quality contracts in a nutshell. And that is it. I think I'm probably fairly close. And
Not even close.
oh, how bad was it?
Minutes.
Oh, don't give me that.
Tell your wife she was right.
That is the last thing I'll do.
Real quick,
27 years, I'm always wrong. You know that. He's seen her before, yes.
real quick,
sir.
how many buyer co-ops are there, do you think, are in the state of Texas?
In the state of Texas, as far as, that's a very good question.
Because there's a lot of little ones.
There's a lot of little ones, but there's probably 40 or more active in the state of Texas, and we are not near the largest. Some are not for profit, some are for profit. We're a true governmental entity.
And I've even heard of school districts even having their own buyers co-op.
School districts kind of they'll try and piggyback off each other, and there's a school district in the Houston area that acts as a lead agency for a co-op based out of Arizona. Go figure.
What is it that is so appealing about our choice partners compared to the other competitors out there? In your opinion, in your humble opinion.
My humble opinion? How much time?
Yeah, I want the short answer.
I'll try and keep. I'll try and keep it short. Is that there's a couple of real key factors. We are truly a governmental entity. Some of our competitors either quote unquote not for profit. They pay a lot of these bonuses and commissions and things like that and hide all their money, and then at the end they may disperse a little bit out because they're a 501c3 and they're mandated to disperse any quote unquote profits at the end of the year. We are truly a governmental entity. Every penny above and beyond our $1 million salaries goes back to HCDE, goes back to fund the help. And again, I don't know where Jesus or you guys put it, but it goes back into the fund and it goes to the therapy or Head Start or whatever the programs.
Part. That's my
I'm
part.
sorry.
I'm about to talk about that.
Okay.
So my point is, and I'm really speaking to the board, one of the huge advantages Choice Partners does for Harris County Department of Ed is it allows us to supplement even more to bring more cost savings to the ISDs. Not only do we have the tax rate, but there's many things that we do, like the work that we've been doing with Fortis, that the revenue from Choice Partners that actually allows us to address facility issues and many equipment and other resources that we would normally have to take out of our general budget. We are not seeking to be rich and pull significant profits and this, that, and the other, but Choice has done such a fantastic job that you and your team has been able to bring in more revenue than I know how to spend, you know, and our board, we're thankful for that because it allows us to be creative and come up with stuff like Fortis and other initiatives that we may look into and have a healthy fund balance. So I appreciate your leadership and everything that you and your crew does.
Anything else? I'm wide open for questions. All right, Miss Erica. Yes.
What year did you come on board?
October of 2015.
Okay. I just want to personally thank you. I've seen a lot of growth in your leadership.
Thank you.
From afar, because I'm not there day to day to manage you. I don't manage you, but I appreciate that. And I do appreciate Choice Partners is one of the most misunderstood departments I think that we have. And as our superintendent said, one of the most beneficial to the members and to our educational services as a whole. I do have a question. I see
Please.
the tremendous revenue growth. Congratulations. So is Hurricane Harvey going to allow a continued positive growth? I know some people had to slow purchasing challenges, or is it going to stay flat?
Very good question. You know how you picture a snake that swallows an animal? We've kind of been going like this, and then with Harvey, there's a lot of construction going on, so we're going to kind of go like this and probably kind of go back like that again. So Harvey, it's a terribly unfortunate event. I'm a native Houstonian, and but I hate to even say it, but it has allowed for opportunities with these school districts being built back, they haven't had the time to go through a lot of these processes, or maybe they haven't done their emergency procedures correctly or timely. So one of their options is using our cooperative, and we've been able to get some of these folks to get their schools up and running, get the kids back in quicker. And obviously it's been a boon to us with the vendors doing the work and paying their choice partners admin fee.
A win-win as far as getting schools back up and running, you know.
Yes. Oh, and one of the big ones, I know, like Kingwood High School in Humble, I think they're up in March or so, and we've been very, very instrumental in trying to help them as much as we can.
England College has the same problem.
Yeah. We've done have some contractors out there and suppliers.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. That was easy so far.
He had one.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Then I have a question.
Hey, Jeff. How are
Yes,
you?
sir. I'm all right. How are you,
I'm
Mr. Dick?
always happy to be here. Okay, I saw that you when you were going over the different vendors, some of them were private schools and charter schools. I saw a small percentage of that.
Very small. What we do is we allow, those people don't have to follow the same guidelines that are on that sheet, but we allow them to participate because typically they have very little buying power, and they sign an interlocal contract. It's not the traditional local government entity interlocal contract, but it is an interlocal contract buying between them and HCDE that allows them to use our contract, save a little bit of money, and things of that nature. A lot of the processes you saw on that one sheet and the local government codes, a lot of the private entities typically don't have to, don't follow all the same guidelines that a public entity does. But we have a number of them that they use it, and it helps them out a lot from cost savings and things like that.
Services are available to private schools and charter schools, and
Well, it can be a private not-for-profit. If it's a private for-profit, they cannot.
so it's private, not-for-profit, and
Yes.
charter schools.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
They also do higher education.
Yeah.
What was
Lone
that?
Star, HCC, U of H.
I also had another question if no
Please,
one else is.
yes.
I didn't hear what you told him.
Oh, I said they also do higher education institutions as well. Not, they don't just do K through 12. They actually help the higher ed schools in the area as well.
Right.
So you also mentioned we're helping other school districts, I assume with FEMA?
FEMA.
Or is it like, I'm kind of, because FEMA is kind of a broad term, is it like FEMA, like?
2 CFR 200 to be exact, and then a number of, yeah, see Ellen over there nodding her head. She knows. And what are they, probably 16 through 32? There's a lot of subsections in there also, and our contracts were of the quality and the terms and conditions and structure of our contracts were sufficient and passed kind of the, for lack of a better term, the FEMA smell test, sniff test, as far as FEMA guidelines have been more restrictive even on the federal side than some of the state and local things were, local guidelines.
Are you referring to like the FEMA, the National Flood Insurance Program, FEMA, or
Yes,
just?
like, we can go down a hole and have a long conversation,
You're right.
but yeah,
That's true.
there's the Part A, the Part B, there's all kinds of different items within FEMA. They've just come in, and when the hurricane hit, a lot of people said, well, we got to get up and running, and we know there's a lot of FEMA dollars. How do we get that money back from the federal government that homeowners are used to getting and other entities? And a lot of people from Ike and past issues have had some experience with it. And we had a lot of conversations, went to a lot of meetings, sat around at a lot of different areas around in and around Harris County and other places, trying to help people out and guide them through, working with a lot of the RMG folks and having Sarah and Mickey and all those ask questions of FEMA, get verifications back from their attorneys, and there was a lot of work in it. But I think the good thing is, past history is that they wrote great contracts for us, and we were able to help a lot of people out.
Sure,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Looking on page 10 or slide 10, whichever it is, that's an impressive growth in keeping your expenses down, and I congratulate you on that. That's
you.
very good. So I asked this question, and you don't necessarily have to answer it today,
Okay.
but what is it that the board could do to help your group, Choice Partners, to be able to continue on that growth and even accelerate it?
I've only been on the government side about 2.5 years, and I'm a sales / marketing person or manager from heart. Spread the word. Tell people about who we are. Tell people about what you've got within that's not a good word, what you have within HCDE that's out there to help all the other local government entities work smarter, not harder, in procuring goods and services. New construction precluded.
Okay, I mean, whatever we can do to help that, other than just by word of mouth, but to make that happen, I think would be a positive trend.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
And I can think of about 20 things, so.
I was just going to add one
You might
thing.
give me a directive, and that'll be what we'll do.
For,
Yes.
for trustee, one good thing that really made me aware of just one of the many things that Choice Partners does is to go to the food fair that they have every year. And this is where you get to sample the food that the students get. And the students come and the teachers come. And you can say firsthand then that you know exactly what.
Well,
so I think that's a good thing to do.
Even to elaborate on that, a lot of these students are in these chef programs, culinary, there you go, Mr. Parker came up, culinary programs at schools, possibly going to culinary school, and they are actually grading these things to determine what's on their menu and things like that. So they get to look at a lot of new products that our vendors have, and I think we had, Joanne, do you remember, 185 or so vendors? We had a lot of vendors last year, 125 at the Humble Civic Center. We'd love to have you come. I mean, it's great to watch a lot of these kids, some middle school and younger even, that are future chefs, kind of getting a nice groundwork there through visiting a lot of our vendors.
Well, thank you.
Opportunity to brag on it. I know it may not be exactly the right time, but heck, I'm president, so I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay, but I wanted to thank you. I want everybody to know that his wife actually has a dress shop up in the 1960 area, and after
Scruples.
It's called Scruples, and after
Shameless
Harvey
plug.
when it hit, they actually asked all their suppliers to donate clothing, and then they put it out, and they actually rented a space next to their shop and made clothing available to, now it was only for women because it's a women's clothing store, right? But they did make women's clothing available for people in the 1960 area completely for free. And so I just wanted to let everybody know what a great job you guys did.
Many tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of clothing.
But I know you
No
really
questions
helped.
asked, nothing. It was good. It was good. I didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, I mean, the thing I saw, though, I saw students come to me who had nothing.
Right.
I mean, she literally had what she had on that day. She had no clothes, no nothing. I sent them over to y'all, and you guys gave her like 2 or 3 outfits right away.
No questions. They just,
Yeah, it was great.
it was very generous suppliers. They've been in business almost 40 years. and-
Well,
and
y'all did something
nice
right, too.
partnership.
So y'all did something right.
Good job.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
Nope.
All right, report of the Board Feasibility Subcommittee, Don Sumners.
The feasibility committee met this morning, and we discussed 2 items that are on the agenda today. And I want y'all to pay special attention to these items because they're helping the department to move forward in its endeavor and have a drug rehab school. And I'm sure that our superintendent will explain both items as they come up. Thank you.
Okay, other reports from board members concerning attendance or participation in a board or HCD-related conference, event, activity, or committee, accolades for HCD staff member or the other deserving person. Does anybody have? Yes, ma'am.
I had the opportunity to attend the Head Start Federal Review meeting, and it was great to see all the Head Start Policy Council parents again. I also attended the Houston Community College Black History Scholarship Gala with our former trustee, Howard Jefferson.
This will be a little longer to make up that we won't be here for March. Just want to say on the last day of Black History Month to thank all the students and educators for any celebration or knowledge that was provided. I saw some in the connectors. I appreciate you recognizing an important part of American history. I also was able to attend a community luncheon at the R.T. Garcia Winter Conference, and I was glad to see Trustee R.T. Garcia. Thanks to Joyce Akins for planning that, also Frances Hester for her role and all the others involved in the winter conference. Oh, sorry, this is distracting. I would also like to thank Dr. McLeod and her team at TASB. They had a new, maybe not new, but an expanded, it's called HCDE and HGC College and Career Readiness Symposium. Last Friday, they partnered with many members of the community, including an entertainer named Tamar, a local Houston native, to really inspire our teens to reach higher for college and to think of a wide range of careers. So I thank them for, I kind of gave them some information and they ran further than I could imagine to get our teens thinking about the future. I'd also like to remind everyone in the community and here, we are in a voting season for those who are in Texas, all statewide. Last week of early vote is through Friday, March 2nd, and Election Day is March 6th. I'd like to thank Trustee Diane Troutman for being here, even though it's a busy campaign season, and I appreciate all those committed to promoting our democracy by voting.
Anybody else? I will tell you, I still read the Houston Chronicle. I don't know how many people actually pick up the paper and read and do things, but I'm one of the few that still does, or I guess it has something to do with the gray hair maybe. You know, and I read a lot of things, you know, and I've seen a lot of articles about Harris County Department of Education, and I've seen, you know, things about trustees, but then I read something that touched my heart, and it was about a woman and her journey with breast cancer. And I just wanted to acknowledge Ms. Spencer and say that I was very touched by the article I read. Very well written, and I applaud you and I wish you well. Okay, now we're going to do monthly financial reports. That'll be Jesus Omesqua.
Okay, the first report is our financial highlights for the month of February, but this is really reporting January's activity. We'll also look at the budget amendment report, and all our financials are posted on our website. Those are the 3 stars that on our transparency website. This is the legal notice from our last presentation from our audited financial report. It was published in the Houston Chronicle, and it was the results that were required by the government code to local government code to publish it. The balance sheet as of January 31st, we have assets of $35,654,525, liabilities of $2,412,159, and equity of $35,654,525. We have updated the fund balance as of 9/1/17 after our annual audit, and so we have non-spendable of $163,555, restricted, committed of $1,575,000, assigned of $8,078,379, and unassigned of $16,889,802. Our financial ratios as of January 31st, again, keep in mind that not the entire 12 months of the year, it's only 5 months that we have so far. So our unassigned fund balance is at 85%. We were at 75% last year. We're budgeted to be at 18% at the end of the year. Working capital ratio, we're at 15 million budgeted, and we're at 33 million as of January 31st, in comparison to 36 million a year ago. Unassigned fund balance ratio, we're at 47% this month versus 45% last year as of the same time. Debt to income ratio are 11%. At the same time, we were at 0%. Our tax revenue to total revenue ratio, we're at 36%, and we're last year at 24%. Our taxes have been coming in a little faster. I was a little surprised by that earlier in the year, that I thought that collections would be a little bit lagging for the first month, but we're a little bit ahead in terms of January from a year ago. But we're budgeted at 21% to be at the end of the year. Indirect cost, 2%. We budgeted 3%. Our fee-for-service revenue, we're at 22% compared to 25%. Some of our fee-for-services revenues, because of Harvey, are lagging a little bit. But we're going to end up the year as the budget projected at 21%. The growth revenue, we're at minus 34% as of the January time mark. Last year we were at 9%. I think a lot of that has to do with the some of the early months where there was an impact from schools that were affected by the flooding event. We're projected to end the year at 5%. Our fund balance activity, those are the amendments that we've had the last 3 months. And the revenues year to date, we're at 47%, whereas the 5th month is 42% of the year. Overall, we're at 37% in terms of budget to actual revenues billed and received. Our budget is $102,428,781 versus the appropriated budget of $118,512,188, which includes some of the overlap in grants that we have an overlap in federal revenues. Our expenditures were at 37%, which is a positive indicator that it's about 5% below our straight line target. Overall, we're at 37% budget to actual in terms of all our budget to actual expenditures and appropriations. Our grants and donations received for the month of January were 14,698. Of that, 13,698 were in kind and 1,000 in cash, primarily Head Start, different locations that were given classroom supplies, and also choice partners and vendors that contributed to with gifts and in terms of giveaways at the choice different conferences. The values, I think it's important to look at where we are in the values in the wake of some of the reassessments of valuation. So we are at, as of January, we're at 435 billion. We started the year with 399 billion. And so the rest has basically a good 36 billion has already been affirmed by our appraisal district. So we have about 3.8 billion left over. And so if all that gets assessed between now and August, we will be at 439 billion this end of the year. We had a meeting with our chief appraiser here in the building. He came and did a presentation. Some of the preliminary look at the values for next year is that it's going to be flat for 2018 and 19. Again, we will be at 439 billion by the end of August to 31st when we start looking at the next budget cycle. Year to date, we've collected 13.2 million, which is 59% of our current tax. The current delinquent, we're still lagging a little bit with our delinquent taxes. We have had to do some refunds from prior taxes, minus $24,084. So we may not meet the delinquent tax projection, but the current tax has been coming in. HCAT fees, year-to-date, 81,315. Tax office fees, 322,140. Our disbursements for the month were 5,222,949, 535 transactions, 435 checks, 416 P-card transactions, and 7 transfers, and all that detail is posted and as well is included as part of your agenda packet. The segment information data for several of our divisions include education certification lagging a little bit at 128,000. Records management is doing well for the first 5 months at plus 1%. School-based therapies is looking basically on target to be approximately $1 million in subsidy for therapy services. And then the schools division, we're at $1,021,817 as well. Cooperative choice, it is holding, and the growth continues. We're at 49% profit. So far, we've made 901,372 as a profitability variance for the first 5 months. So hopefully that will continue and still meet that trend line. Our amendments in general fund is 18,662. Special revenue funds 172,000, and capital projects of 300,000. AB East received some funds, 18,662 from rollover from a year ago, and then 300,000 being transferred from general fund to the Fortis Academy for some maintenance and some furniture and equipment so that we can have the complete project in one fund. And so those are transfers in and out with no change in fund balance. Our special revenues or grants, the total is 160,000 for adult ed, 121,000 for a state grant in adult ed, 74,000 in adult ed TANF, and then the federal adult ed portion of 19,769. Again, these are funds that were rolled forward from spend fund from a year ago. And then the case grant is an adjustment to the projection for 275,000 for after-school program. And then the Fortis capital projects, 300,000 transfer, budget line item transfer between 2 different funds. And so those are the total of the amendments. The construction project, we've had year to date, we have $13,238,311 in the AB West account. We've added $11,983 in interest for the month of January. We haven't paid anything yet. We've submitted a couple of billings to the fiscal agent, and so we'll report those in the next month. And here's where we're at as of the items that you have in yellow there have already been done, and so the tentative timeline based on our last meeting that we've had with the architect is the April will be the approval of design development, May 18, the method of construction, and then the timeline between July 18 and July 19 to proceed with the AB West project. This is the first of the 2 reports. Any questions on this part of the financial statement? Yes. Okay. They're going through the PFC, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, my question was, are they all just going through PFC, not the board?
That's correct. They're going to go through the PFC process because the money is in the PFC board. In terms of our investments, the interest rates continue to inch up a little bit. So our portfolio as of January 31st is $45,246,183. Out of that, the $13,238,311 is in the PFC, and then we have $32,007,872 in our HCDE fund, and it is spread out between the different pools. The majority is in Techstar, TechSpool, Lone Star, and some in Chase Bank. In the PFC, the majority, 82%, is in Texpool, and then Bank of Texas as well. Looking at a comparison from a year ago at the same time, our percentage change was 7%, or $3,095,777, and primarily because of the added deposits and the investments that we had since a year ago. The 32 million are pretty much overnight, and so as rates go up, we're going to climb those rates, and so they continue to go up here in the last few months. We've earned 95,221 in general fund and 38,942 in the PFC. We're at 1.30 percentage and 1 day overnight. And so you see right there is that a year ago we were earning about half of the interest rate that we're earning today. So we're now in almost twice in terms of interest rate than a year ago. And so the short-term rates, what we're going to see is continue to climb. There's not a concern for inflation, so the Fed is very systematically looking at adjusting the Fed funds rate, which will adjust this rate, and it will continue to go up on the short time. Any questions on the investment report? Okay, thank you.
Consensus, do I have anybody reserving anything? D1. Reserve C4 and C9.
D5.
D5. So I have C4, C9, D1, and D5. Are there anything else? Do I hear another? Do I have a motion?
So moved. We
A motion by Trustee Moore and a second by Trustee Troutman. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. We'll take C4 and C9 together because I'm the one that reserved it and I have the same issue with both. Okay, so do I have a motion on C4 and C9?
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. My issue with both of them is we're being asked to go back in time, and I don't like that. So who's the one that put me a late agenda item up here?
Your friend.
My buddy. Why do I have a late agenda item?
This time. No, the C4 and C9, those two contracts, the 15006 MP for the technology and the 16002 CG for indoor, outdoor LED lighting, were basically most of the vendors were passed at last month's board meeting. These two guys, despite repeated efforts from us, did not get their paperwork in on time, yet kind of more or less begged us to participate. And so we're asking for the leniency of the board for the ratification. It's just 4 days on one and 5 days on the other. They actually fell off at the end of the expiration date off of our website, so they were not on the website as of the 23rd and 24th as far as being advertised as legitimate contracts.
I actually talked to the board attorney, and that's what I was told. But the optics on this doesn't say that. So that's why I wanted it publicly to say that you guys were not offering those services during the time when the contract was lapsed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
So if we now go back, we're not really retroactive in anything other than making the contract whole.
Right. Yes.
Activating?
We're activating.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure,
Yes,
because
sir.
my time machine's busted. I would just encourage your people, because this happens too much. You know, just talk to those vendors, and I mean, I don't know if these guys are the only ones that do this service, but if they're not, you might think about somebody that can get their paperwork in on time.
Point well taken.
All right. Okay, I've had my say. All right.
Anything-
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously, in spite of my complaining. Okay, D1 and D5, are those the same issues, Erica, or do I do them separately? Do them separately? Yeah. Okay. All right, do I have a motion on D1?
So moved.
I got a motion?
Second.
Got a second by Mr. Moore. Do I have any discussion?
Just for transparency, my kids use Dinky Drum Company. We did music there. I love it, but I just want to abstain.
All righty. Anything else? No? Okay. All in favor of then doing D1, please raise your hand. All opposed? Abstaining? Okay, motion passes with 5, 4, and 1 abstention. Okay, D5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion? Who was the second? Troutman. Okay. All right, any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Jeff, I think this is yours, or somebody. I recall in previous times we had more details about these consultants, like their rate. I don't know, there's so many pages related to this. I see the scoring sheet, but I don't see any details on their scope of work, their rate of pay. I don't know if that's not, I'm kind of confused.
That was all part of the response. Are you talking, you're talking about the field consultants?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Tell me the questions again, I'm sorry.
And actually, my general question is, why is this in consensus and not non-consensus?
I don't have that answer.
It's not over $50,000.
It's actually not a Choice Partners item. It's an HCDE internal purchasing item.
Sorry. Then whoever it is. I don't know who.
So it's not a choice, so who's going to take
Choice
this one?
Partners.
The field consultants are actually employees, are
I think somebody's coming to bail you out there.
no, they're contractors to HCDE, not Choice.
On a friend.
If the question is why is there not more detail on it, I apologize.
Let me just add to that question.
What are we,
These would
what
be
kind of
people-
consulting are they
these
doing? Because
would
I
be
was confused
people-
the way I read it. I thought they were going to be your field.
They are.
Well,
They
there are people
are.
working under Choice Partners' purview. However, the bid was put out, the RFP was put out by internal because they're not going to be working for 25 other school districts in the area. Yeah, they're an external vendor. So you were right. Technically, we're running it through internal because that's the proper place to run it, but they will be responding to Jeff.
Yes. Choice is like an internal department, just like any other, and so they have needs of consultant services. So they need to procure services for consultants. So we go out for proposals to provide them with the procurement vehicles for them to hire consultants that they need for field services. And so we put out a bid, and these are some of the respondents, and they evaluated it. And the scope of work will be identified by Choice as to what they're going to be working in terms of field representative work, will be marketing and sales, will be contract management. It would be those kinds of things that they would be working on. Similar to what they already have and what you saw on the screen, the other consultants, there will be similar scope of work that they will be working on. And Jeff could probably say a little bit more of the detail.
So I'm going to interrupt because I reached a point where I've seen several of these. I've seen Mr. Elders several times. And typically there's a not to exceed or a more specific. So I'm actually not understanding. It seems kind of vague, and I don't know how you apply to something if you don't know if you're doing sales, marketing, or this or that. You have to know what you're applying to do.
No, these positions are exactly like the one that Mr. Elder and Mr. Calhoun and Mr. Ward do in throughout Texas, and there are there are no funds needed. This is only a partial part of the year. What you're asking about is at the renewal portion for next fiscal year, there will be, it'd be part of the budget, and there'll be dollar amounts set up. Nobody goes to work for Choice or as an HCDE contractor for Choice without a separate contract with all those details spelled out. All of those funds are available in this year's budget as far as what we're going to have these 3 individuals do between now and August 31st. There's no additional funds, and at the beginning of September 1 next year, sometime during the summer, all this will be renewed, and it'll have all those details in it. You asked about the daily rate also, whether they think they're great or they think they're bad. They get the daily rate. We're a government entity. We can't pay them 20% more than the other guy or 20% less than the other guy. We basically pay them all pretty much the same daily rate and then the expenses. I don't know if that's answered it.
To council, would the date of this have to be adjusted? It has a 5-year, look at the item, it says, it has a 5-year. You're saying through the fiscal year, I understand that concept.
And why do you think why do you think it needs to be adjusted?
Because why would I vote on something through 2023,
Right.
which is 5 years, when he's saying it's for this fiscal year budget?
It is 5 years. Of
Still
course,
renewed.
it's subject to budget appropriations every year.
It's renewed every year, and funds are encumbered.
So is this a contract that's renewable every year through 2023, subject to whose approval?
Well, it's a 5-year contract subject to
So you guys approving the budget.
subject to non-appropriations. So it's not actually renewed, but it's cancelable.
So I think then the answer to your question is it's not just for this fiscal year. It is a 5-year contract.
Let me,
Renewed annually. Of course, the board has to appropriate funds.
Yeah, I really concur that I think I have a problem with scheduling somebody out for 5 years, renewable or not. That just doesn't make any sense to me, especially for a consultant. That, I think, puts everyone else at a disadvantage, and I think there's too much of a tendency to just renew these things without actually checking to see if there isn't somebody else better. I would really prefer that these be just a 1-year contract. And does this have a 30-day cancellation in it?
By both parties.
yes.
Okay. Well, that helps us some, but there's always that resistance to go back on a contract and cancel or not renew. So I think the length of this is quite questionable.
There's, no. Okay. This is the award of the contract to be placed on as an awarded vendor. There's no contract yet after this. After this, there has to be a request for a contract, and if the contract is below 50,000, the superintendent has the authority to sign it. If the contract is above 50,000, then it will come to the board for board approval. This is a procurement of the consulting service, and we're awarding a vendor based on the criteria and based on the evaluation, and that award of vendor is for 5 years. Now, the contract itself is determinant of his needs. His needs may be only 15,000 between now and August 31st, which in that case, then a $15,000 contract does not require board action. Now, if it was 55,000, then it would require board action to be placed for board review.
I'm really not talking about board action. I'm just talking about the precedent or the look that it has to the public or even the board members here that we're stretching this out. And I know that will be a tendency not to try to find other consultants during this period of time since we have this 5-year agreement.
I can tell you, for me, I do look sometimes for contracts more than a year, just so that I can lock in some services, depending upon if the person or the company, what kind of job they've done in the past. So I think that the 5-year period doesn't bother me as long as we have a 30-day out. I mean, at the end of the day, either the department or the vendor can cancel it in 30 days notice. I mean, so it's not, we have a 5-year contract, and it gives the vendor some security. As long as they're doing a good job, they're going to have a security.
Well, Mr. Chair, and I think that the thing that we need to be aware of is the board still has the authority to choose whether we continue to do business with that individual or not. But to be quite honest with you, if we enter into a 5-year agreement with the freedom to renew this contract annually, if the people aren't giving us good service, we're not going to do business with them. They don't have to cancel their contract. We'll cancel it for them.
Well, let me just ask one other question, and I'll shut up on this one. But aren't you the place that just gave us $1.5 million because y'all are doing such a good job?
More than that, but more than that, but yes.
So we got a lot of money from you based on the people we're using right now.
Correct.
Well, but hold on. Mr. Moore had said earlier how he could help Choice Partners. So here's your opportunity. I mean, so part of what this is we're obviously always looking for opportunities to expand and to grow and to get to areas that we haven't been before. And this is just yet another example of that. I apologize. I think it was a poorly written action item. They probably didn't have enough information in the background for y'all to be able to decipher all the things that these two gentlemen are saying. But I don't know that that should keep it from being approved. I think we're well within the business of what we normally do.
I have one more question. This 5 years is not at a fixed rate, though.
No, this 5 years is all dependent on, I'm sorry, Bill, on the budget that is approved by the board. The one reason that, and shoot arrows at me, that I wanted to do this is because we have funds that have been that are available, that none of these contracts would be over the 50,000. None of these people are going to work beyond September 1 without coming back to the board, because that'll be another yearly contract. These are just proportion. If you could almost place the 5-year contract is there, but the funds are not not encumbered right now for 5 years out. It's all based on annual budget approval, and then they come back again before the September 1 of the next fiscal year. So these people are only, they're less than 6 months is basically what we're doing right now as far as the approval for these folks to go and begin working.
Just a suggestion, I think, as the superintendent said, it's not a very well worded agenda item, and if you'd have had it better laid out and more different backup, you might have avoided a lot of questions.
Yeah, so as Mr. Evans was referring earlier, there are advantages to locking people in, but we really haven't locked these people in if their rates are not guaranteed for any period of time.
I got one in the head out there, so I guess she agrees with you.
Go ahead, Joanne. Joanne's.
Always going to charge the same amount for 5 years?
I hate to interrupt, but excuse me, but this is a procurement for services for our consultants. We have to go through this procedure to accommodate state law, okay? Once we have them on for our services, then we have the opportunity to create a contract with them to procure their services and do exactly what we tell them to do, just like we have with Mr. Elder. Okay, it just gives us the opportunity. Without that opportunity, we can't procure their services. And they did turn in a daily rate with the RFP that they have done.
You just follow procurement procedures so
Yes.
that you can then go ahead and get a contract.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So,
And we don't have to use any of them. We can use all of them, or we can use 1, 2, or 3 of them.
right. Because it is on demand, not as a guaranteed amount of money.
Correct.
And we should have stated that in the action item.
You should have.
Yes.
That's why I go back to my original statement.
Yep.
All right. Does anybody else? Trustee Lee Carter, are you satisfied with the answer, or would you like some more? You got your answers, okay. All right. How about you, Mr. Summers?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. I wouldn't have bet on that one.
Long way around.
Yes.
All right, action items, non-consensus. 7A, consider approval of the 2018-2019 HCDE work holiday calendar. Do I have a motion? Got a motion by Mr. Dick. I'll second it. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. All right, consider the use of the job order contracting method of project delivery contract award in accordance with policy CB local, and consider approval of the master job order contract with Facility Sources for job number 16/054JN for interior renovations at the Fortis Academy campus in an amount not to exceed $718,870. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, got a motion and a second. Okay, do I have any discussion?
I'd like our superintendent to explain this item to us and what it covers at Fortis.
Thank you, Trustee Sumners. This is primarily for the interior of the building, specifically the kitchen. The kitchen is going to be quite expensive. There's a number of issues that need to be addressed with that facilities. We have gas lines, air conditioning, HVAC, electrical. We have numerous inspections that we're going to have to get approved. Encompassed in that, we also gave during our feasibility committee study earlier today, we gave an itemized list of how much the items were going to cost as far as furniture, fixtures, kitchen equipment, everything that's needed to get that going. At this point, we've had a number of school districts who are interested in Fortis Academy. However, what we're finding is something I actually didn't anticipate. The school districts are wanting to do walkthroughs of the site prior to initiating contracts. They actually want to see the facility. And so all of those walkthroughs and site visits have gone well, but we tend to keep telling them, imagine this and picture that, and, you know, imagine the kitchen over here and this, that, and the other. So with the approval of this action item and the next one too, we can get started on these projects and be able to have them done by the next school year.
Anybody else? Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes. Okay, 7C, consider approval of master job order contract with Construction Masters for job number 15/041JN for exterior improvements at the Fortis Academy campus, the amount not to exceed $121,206.11. Do I have a motion? Got a motion by Trustee Troutman.
Second.
Got a second by Trustee Moore, and I suppose you're on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the contract for the exterior of the building. We're doing extensive landscaping behind the building. Y'all have seen some of the elevations for that. This also would include the ropes course, and we're going to have other action items that are going to come before the board probably in April. We're going to do, the ropes course isn't in this one. Okay, I'm getting all kinds of language.
You just can't wait to get on the ropes.
I'm curious of whether the ropes have the capacity for my weight.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah. So with your approval, we can get this exterior started, but we're going to have additional action items coming before the board probably in April and May. And we're really getting down to the phase work of getting this stuff done, and hopefully we will have a place that y'all can do a site visit of once it's completed.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Consider approval of the agreement with TXU Energy, job number 16/052JN for a term of 60 months beginning July 2019 at a rate not to exceed .0405 per kilowatt hour, and consider delegating authority to the superintendent or designate to renegotiate and execute the contract at more favorable terms should they occur. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion? Second. Got a second. Do I have any discussion?
Yes. We
Mr.
have,
Sumner.
do they have a cancellation clause, and we have a cancellation clause?
Well, I mean, during the period is locked in, depending on if it's 3-year or 5-year, yes. But there will be penalties if we cancel within the timeline. So we pretty much would have to be, if it's 3 years, we'd have to wait the whole 3 years.
Okay, but is there any
60 months?
provisions for rate adjustments?
No. We would find at that time.
Okay, can you get my house put on there? For everybody that doesn't know, this is probably half of what the lowest residential rate is.
So are you making a motion that all board members should follow it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just kidding. Don't, no, please. And don't push that one, no. I don't want to hear from our friends complaining next time. All right.
President, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I always call you chairman, but
That's
you're
all right.
president.
Yes, ma'am.
Only thing I would add, because this item actually include the month in the year that would be the 60 months. Usually we have,
It'll be after June 2019, so the following month after that. Because our contract goes through June 2019.
I know, but that's the beginning of the 60 months, right?
Yes.
She'd asked what's know when it ends.
Yeah, when it
Oh.
ends.
I'm guessing
That's
5
not
years
in
later,
this item.
it'll be June of 2024.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, consider approval of Amendment 1 to the service agreement with Child Care Careers LLC, RFP 13/040KJ in the amount not to exceed $108,080. It's an increase of $50,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Got a second. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am?
I'm going to say again, and I would sincerely like Mr. Colbert to bring this to some committee or board. We cannot continue to use this many substitutes because we are not paying our full-time Head Start teachers fairly. I have young children. They get nervous seeing new people. I'm not saying these substitutes aren't nice, but it's hard for them to fully engage and learn and do what they're doing when they're nervous. And so I would ask us to get a development plan or some kind of review on the salaries. I'm going to keep asking.
And I concur with her.
Gave you a proposal. All right, anything else? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Let's see. Consider approval of Amendment 2 to the service contract with Valley Services, Inc., RFP 17003YR. This modifies the contract from $78,269 to not to exceed $128,269. It's a $50,000 increase. Trustee Lee Carter?
No.
Okay. Okay. It's substitutes, right? No? Okay. All right. All in favor? Any discussion? Anybody have any discussions?
We get a motion?
Oh, I thought we had a motion. I'm sorry. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Do I have a discussion?
Yes. I always wonder why these things always are an increase of an exact amount, like 50,000, 25,000, 75,000.
The amount is a projection of what we estimate to be between now and the end of the year. It's just a rounded projection. We did not. We may actually have less than that.
Just authorization is
Right.
the estimate, really.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. The motion passes unanimously. Consider approval of fund request to the Department of Health and Human Services to carry forward $1,568,174 of unobligated funds for the Early Head Start Child Care Partnership Grant. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and I got a second. Okay, do I have any discussion?
I have a question. Didn't we just approve not long ago a similar motion to this to carry forward some money?
Yes, that was the regular Head Start program. So this is the Early Head Start program.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, consider second reading and approval of policy BE local. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Discussion.
Gotta say second by whom?
What'd you say?
You have to say who did the second.
Oh, I didn't see the doctor. Oh, I only heard his deeper voice. I'm sorry.
Sorry there.
All right, so I have a motion by Trustee Lee Carter and a second by Trustee Moore. Because I apologize, I did not, my hearing did not hear the higher pitched voice. Okay. So do we have any discussion? And I guess you're on because you're going to tell us what it is.
This is the policy at second reading, Mr. President. The board discussed, that was on first reading last month. This is the change in policy which would have the policy comply with what the board is doing, which is meeting on Wednesday at 1 p.m. You may recall that our local policy prior to this indicated that the board met on Tuesday, and so we made this change in policy to make sure that the policy aligned with what the board was doing. And I believe, based on the discussion at Policy Committee today, there's other discussion as well that may need to happen at this point.
I'd like to amend this motion.
Go ahead.
So, in Policy Committee, we discussed another item for BE Local that would involve allowing board members to participate in our board meeting and or committee meetings via video conference in very limited circumstances. I would like our council to read the language. It is also in our binder, except for I think one addition, but it's in our binder, which was tab 2.
2, yes, ma'am.
Tab 2. No.
Tab 2, page
Yeah.
2 of 2 at the very end, and the language that is requested to
Is
be
your
added.
mic on?
No. Sorry, page 2 of tab 2 of the Policy Committee binder. The language that is requested to be added is to the section meeting by video conference call. And at the end of the black area, which says, the area that is already in policy says that the board recognizes the legal availability of meeting by video conference call. The board also recognizes that disadvantages exist to meeting by video conference call, including limiting the personal aspects of participating in the meeting and the expense of meeting via video conference call, among other things. Therefore, the board prohibits members from participating in an open or closed meeting by video conference call. Ms. Lee's amendment would add the following language: except when extenuating circumstances are present, such as, but expressly not limited to, board members being out of the state of Texas, medical issues prohibiting personal attendance and the like, but such that participation shall be limited to no more than 3 meetings per school year. Board members desiring to participate in a meeting by video conference call may submit a request to do so in writing or by email to the board president no later than midnight on the 5th calendar day before a regular meeting and 96 hours before a called special meeting. The board president shall grant a board member's request to participate in a meeting via video conference call if extenuating circumstances are present in accordance with this policy, or if at least 3 board members concur with the request. That would be the amendment. So we'd need a second on that if there's anybody interested. I think we'd need a second on that. And then we're now discussing the amendment. Is there any?
Yeah, Diane seconded. And this is just on
The amendment.
reading the amendment. But the only thing that I'm hearing about this, it makes it a little ambiguous because it says, there's some language in there that you said about other circumstances beside what was laid out. And according to our policy, if 3 board members come up and somebody is going to be fishing in Arizona or somewhere they could actually qualify for this.
They could qualify for it under those circumstances as written, but not more than 3 times per year.
Right. Okay.
I have one question, and I don't recall it being answered, but 96 hours
96 hours. Yes,
before a special board meeting? How many hours are required to hold a special board meeting?
72.
Yeah, so you have to ask for it before you know it happens?
If it's posted, if it is posted less than 96 hours in advance.
So if I might, Mr. Summers, I asked that question of board counsel whenever we were drafting this, and her response was that if the board were working on setting up an emergency or special meeting, that certainly you would want to know from one of the trustees if in fact they were going to need to participate via video conference. And so that was the reason for having that language written.
Well, I'm just a little bit confused about that. You can't ask for something that hasn't been asked, hasn't been posted. So if you got to ask 96 hours before, and you only need 72 hours to ask for a special meeting.
You have 72 hours to post.
To post, yeah.
Well.
Mr. Nguyen, is the argument that I'm hearing that we post 72 hours in advance, but we consider whether board members are available and whether we can have the meeting more than 72 hours in advance to the extent we can.
So it is my understanding that members of this board work in a part-time capacity when they are here, and that their schedules sometimes are full, and we do spend more time scheduling them than 72 hours. 72 hours is a posting deadline, yes ma'am. And so it sometimes takes as many as 2 or 3 days to agree on the day in which we will meet, and then this board would meet and then post in a special meeting. And so this is an attempt to, during that conversation, so that someone would say, I can make that work, but I cannot be here in person, I would need to participate by video conference. Great. That's how this was explained to me.
If somebody's going to participate by video conference, does it have to be in the posting?
We usually do put it in the posting, yes.
So you need to know ahead of time in the posting, so you know if you're going to say they're going to be, okay.
And is how would that be accomplished? Would all of the trustees be notified when the subject first comes up?
What?
And that subject would have to come up earlier than 96 hours.
So I don't schedule
Just
those
like
meetings.
when Carla's calling all of us, that's
Carla,
usually a week
Carla
ahead of time.
didn't ask me 96 hours ahead.
What? I'm just saying that usually happens a week or so ahead of time. So I wouldn't think we would post it till Carla had finished talking to everyone. Then we would know who was going to participate by video conference.
Trustee Moore, I see you want to say something.
Yeah, it seems to me that we would just offer a friendly amendment to change that 70 to 72 or 60 hours, something that is a little more reasonable. Instead of saying 96, just say 60 hours.
Well, since we post it in the notice when somebody is going to participate by video conference call, and the notice has to be posted 72 hours in advance, I think we'd want some additional time on top of the 72 hours.
So again, if I might, as a matter of practicality, as I understand the way this is done, and I don't do this, so I'm working just on what my understanding is that when a special meeting is sought, each of you receive a phone call or an email, or in some cases both, to try and agree on a date. That date has, to my knowledge, never been 72 hours later, because that would be in violation of the posting. And so there's usually a window of opportunity. And so the reason for wording it this way is that during that, while that date is being sought, that someone could say, yes, I can be there, but I'll have to be there by video conference because I intend to be out of state that day, or I'm going to be, recovering from a medical condition or whatever. And so that way, that could factor into that decision-making process in terms of the date. Because again, someone might say, but if you can wait and do it a day later, I can be there. And so then that might also factor into it. The scheduling of the board is more art than science. I would defer to Ms. Cantu on that, but I believe that's probably a fair statement.
When you're only giving her 24 hours to amend the posting, so it's not like it's a huge amount of time.
It's not.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
I think we're kind of overlaying the difference between an emergency meeting and a special meeting, which some of the items are more urgent, so it has to happen before a 30-day board timeline, but they're not necessarily emergency like we had during Harvey. And so, yeah, there usually is a week to 10 days discussion on dates. But usually we're looking for quorum. I mean, it's ideal to try to have everyone, but sometimes special meetings, you know, we can't get everyone's schedule 100% where it works. I do think that's sufficient. And she's probably developing the posting, and so she just needs she or the board secretary needs one more day to make sure the part about the video conference is accurate. It's not really doing a whole new, she's not removing something that's been posted and then reposting. She's just making sure whatever's posted is accurate.
Well, don't we need also to address, because if an emergency meeting, sometimes you don't have 4 days. It has to be done today, or, you know, so.
That's different.
Don't we need to have a provision in there about something, about a true emergency meeting that takes place now.
So there are provisions in the law regarding true emergency meetings, like over Hurricane Harvey, which would allow more than one board member, more than two board members, in fact, more than a quorum of the board to participate in various means other than being in this room. So I think for a true emergency,
So we're
like
covered by the
you're
law.
covered
Yeah,
by
we're
the
covered by
law.
the law.
Okay,
Emergency.
so we're good.
I give up.
That doesn't happen very often.
So you're voted on the policy as amended, which is the original change that is in your board book and the change, the amendment proposed by Board Trustee Lee Carter.
So we're gonna vote them all at the same time? Yes. Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. As of right now, under the Texas Code, pursuant to any and all purposes permitted by sections 551.001 through 551.084, including but not limited to 551.071 and 551.074, we are adjourned to executive session. It is 2:45. 18, and we are back in session. We have an agenda item number 9A, consider approval of a supplemental duty pay for a senior grant accounting clerk. Do I have a motion? I got a motion. Do I have a second? Dr. Troutman seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Best I can. Are there any other motions? Okay, do I have a second?
So moved.
All in favor? Okay, we're adjourned. It's 3:19.